A massive move might be on the horizon for the Cincinnati Bengals, and trust me, this update is one fans can't afford to miss. A major trade offer has reportedly been leaked involving one of the Bengals' biggest stars, and with the trade deadline just days away, things are starting to heat up fast in Cincinnati. But that's not all. We've also got new and encouraging updates before the upcoming showdown against the Chicago Bears. There's a lot to unpack today, so stick around, because this one's packed with serious news. Before we dive into the latest Bengals news, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit like, and don't forget to press the bell icon so you never miss a single Bengals update. Now, let's jump into it. Alright, here's where things get really interesting. With the deadline approaching on November 4th, the Bengals front office faces a big question: will they buy, sell, or try to do both? A brand new report suggests that Cincinnati's mindset might be shifting, and that could mean a major trade is closer than many fans expect. Let's talk about what's been leaked so far. Multiple reports have revealed the asking price for star pass rusher Trey Hendrickson, and it's a steep one. The Bengals reportedly want at least a first-round pick in return. That demand alone tells you how valuable Hendrickson remains to this defense, even after a bumpy few weeks. He's still questionable for Sunday's game after battling through injuries, and even though he suited up last week, it was clear he wasn't close to 100%. You could see it in his movement. He wasn't himself, probably closer to 50% at best. Still, the fact that Cincinnati is even listening to offers shows this is more than just smoke. And remember, this all comes after Hendrickson's off-season contract standoff, where frustration was already brewing behind the scenes. The Bengals find themselves standing at a crossroads. Trey Hendrickson, their defensive heartbeat and one of the most dominant edge rushers in the entire league, is playing on a one-year deal, and his future in Cincinnati is hanging in the balance. As the trade deadline inches closer, the question inside the Bengals front office isn't simple anymore. It's not just, should we move him? It's, what kind of team are we right now? If the Bengals manage to pull off a win against the Bears, it could shift everything. That victory might convince management to go all in, believing Joe Burrow's return could spark a late-season surge toward the playoffs. But if things go sideways, the mindset could flip fast, and suddenly, selling players like Hendrickson becomes a real possibility. Here's the reality: Hendrickson isn't just another player. He's been the engine of this defense, a relentless force off the edge who changes games when healthy. But if the Bengals know he's likely to hit free agency and walk in the offseason, getting a first-round pick in return might be too tempting to pass up. It's a harsh truth for fans, but this is how great franchises stay competitive, turning tough choices into future assets. Still, imagine how hard it would be for Cincinnati's defense to line up on Sunday without number 91 leading the charge. Now, according to one report making the rounds, several league insiders, including Peter Schrager, believe a Hendrickson trade actually makes sense. Not because the Bengals are desperate to move him, but because rival teams are watching closely, convinced this could be the kind of blockbuster move that shakes up the entire NFL. If it happens, it wouldn't just be a trade, it'd be a statement. According to ESPN's Peter Schrager, Trey Hendrickson might just be one of the most realistic trade pieces in the entire NFL right now. Schrager said it bluntly: on paper, Hendrickson's situation makes him a very viable option to be moved before the deadline. Think about it: he's on a reasonable contract, he's in the final year of his deal, and he's already had tension with the front office over his extension earlier this offseason. The Bengals eventually got a short-term deal done, but as Schrager mentioned, no one really knows how strong that relationship is behind the scenes. Schrager also hinted that while most big names won't move until after the weekend, he believes Hendrickson could be one of the rare exceptions, a name that actually gets traded once the action starts heating up. And that's when things really took off. Because shortly after his comments, reports surfaced that if any team offers the Bengals a first-round pick, Cincinnati would have to seriously consider pulling the trigger. That's not to say they want to move him, far from it, but when a top 10 defense is struggling to stay healthy and you're staring down a complicated cap situation, the idea of recouping a premium draft pick becomes impossible to ignore. Now, here's where it gets tricky. The Bengals' playoff hopes are still alive. If they can knock off the Bears this Sunday, they'll be right back in the race. Their remaining schedule is one of the softest in the division, and the AFC North hasn't exactly been dominant this season. The Ravens still have questions, the Steelers are inconsistent, and the Colts matchup could shake up the standings even further. That's why moving Hendrickson would be such a bold call, because trading away your best defensive player while you're still fighting for the postseason would send a mixed message. But if the Bengals lose to the Bears, the tone shifts fast. Suddenly, that trade becomes a real possibility. And while his injury isn't considered major, it's another factor the Bengals are watching closely. They could always franchise tag him after the season if things stay uncertain, keeping their options wide open. So, here's the reality. Sunday's game might decide it all. Win, and you keep Hendrickson for one more run. Lose, and the Bengals might have no choice but to start thinking about the future. So here's the million-dollar question, Bengals fans. Would you trade Trey Hendrickson for a first-round pick? Or do you believe Cincinnati should keep him, extend him in the offseason, or even hit him with the franchise tag and figure things out next year? It's one of those decisions that can shape the future of the franchise. But while that debate rages on, there's another major storyline developing: Sunday's matchup against the Chicago Bears. And the latest injury reports might just give the Bengals a real opportunity to turn their season around. According to several reports, the Bears' top wide receivers, including DJ Moore and rookie standout Rome Odunze, missed practice this week. Add to that a few banged-up offensive linemen, and Chicago's offense might not be at full strength heading into Sunday. For the Bengals, that could be a huge advantage. If Jake Browning ends up starting again, he'll need all the help he can get, and facing a weakened Bears lineup could be exactly what this team needs to regain momentum. And remember, even with Joe Burrow still recovering, having T. Higgins and Ja'Marr Chase on the field always keeps Cincinnati dangerous. Reports also suggest that Joe Flacco, who joined the roster as veteran depth, is trying to play through a shoulder injury, but he's clearly not at 100%. Meanwhile, over on the Bears' side, Caleb Williams might not have his full supporting cast, which could tilt the balance slightly toward the Bengals. Still, we've seen how unpredictable this team can be. Remember the loss to the Jets? Even against a short-handed opponent, Cincinnati couldn't close it out. So, while the Bears' injury issues look promising, the Bengals can't take anything for granted. And back to Hendrickson, his own health remains a question mark. He was listed as did not practice this week with that lingering injury, though the team still considers him questionable. That at least suggests there's a chance he plays. But here's the catch: if he's not healthy enough to suit up, it could kill any trade discussions entirely. Other teams won't risk a first-round pick on a player who might not be ready to go. On the flip side, if Hendrickson shows he's close to returning, the Bengals front office could suddenly find itself with a very tough choice to make. Either way, this Sunday's game could decide more than just a win or loss. It could decide the future of Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati. At least Trey Hendrickson hasn't been ruled out yet, and that alone gives the Bengals a bit of hope. But the injury list doesn't end there. Linebacker Logan Wilson also missed practice this week, and there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding his absence. Some think it's injury-related, others wonder if it's frustration after a tough performance last Sunday, or maybe even connected to the trade rumors quietly swirling around him. Whatever the case, it's another cloud hanging over the Bengals' defense right now. But the biggest question heading into Sunday remains Joe Flacco's status. If he can't go and Jake Browning has to start, things could get tricky fast. We saw what Browning looked like early in the season, flashes of potential, yes, but also moments where the offense completely stalled. Still, credit to Flacco, reports say he's pushing hard to play, even if he's nowhere near 100%. Now, let's be honest, the Bears are a decent football team, but this is a matchup the Bengals should win. A victory would push them to 4-5, giving this team a pulse again heading into the bye week, and more importantly, into the trade deadline on November 4th. That's what makes this game so crucial. If Cincinnati wins, expect them to make a few targeted additions, not blockbuster moves, but small, smart upgrades to stabilize the defense. Because that's where things have fallen apart lately. Look at the numbers. Before Week 6, the Bengals had only allowed 14 points in the fourth quarter 3 times across their last 14 games. This year, that collapse has become almost routine. Without Hendrickson on the field, that late-game pressure just hasn't been there. Opposing quarterbacks are getting too comfortable, and the Bengals are paying the price. So, it wouldn't be a surprise if the front office decides to add defensive help, maybe even from within the division. The Steelers just traded for safety Kyle Duggar after losing Deshaun Elliott, and Cincinnati could easily take a page from that playbook. And if the Bengals do end up moving Hendrickson, keep an eye on one potential landing spot: the Indianapolis Colts. Their defensive coordinator has a long-standing relationship with Hendrickson from their time together in Cincinnati, and the Colts could use another proven pass rusher to bolster their playoff push. Still, this situation is complicated. The Bengals' defense has struggled mightily this season, one of the worst statistical stretches in recent years, so trading away your best defensive player would feel like waving the white flag. That's why this Sunday feels like a turning point. Win, and maybe the Bengals buy in and reload for one more push. Lose, and the talk about trades, rebuilds, and the future of Trey Hendrickson could get a whole lot louder.